Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today's upload is full of information on dogmen, government secrets, and locations of some of that information that you will hear. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? All right, folks, this upload is an amazing interview with a friend of the channel, a friend of mine, Steph. He was a private military contractor who guarded precious metal mines all around the world. And the things that he had seen during his time as a contractor are just truly terrifying. He's going to share some of this with us and some locations on the map. Let's get into it. All right, everybody. Today I have Steph with us. Steph, how are you?
Doing pretty good, all things considered. A lot of my strength's back. I'm not perfect, but definitely getting a good mile in every day walking up here. 10,000 feet. I know I'm acclimated, but doing a lot better than I was before.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Happy 4th of July early as well.
Yeah, I'm just hoping they don't burn the forest down around us, but we've had a lot of good rain, and the patrols are up, so yeah, fingers crossed.
Most definitely. Now, today is going to be, like I told everybody in the beginning and you as well, I don't want to know any of your experiences prior. The only thing I have in front of me right now is a satellite map of an area in Wyoming. That's the only thing I have in front of me. That's the only thing I know about this experience. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and that way you can talk about it. I will put the picture that I am looking at as well as a pulled out picture in the video that we are going to be making right now. So the floor is yours, my friend. And as normal, I will interrupt you if I have questions.
Yeah, and everybody out there in the comments, Jeff and I interrupt each other all the time. Don't worry about it.
We do it just talking. I mean, so
bear with us. Well, good to hear everybody again, or be here for everybody again. So, like I said, things are going great. So, I guess we'll get started here. I got called out on a job from a brokerage in Colorado, and I was transported up to a place in Wyoming near Kilpecker's Dunes, and I'm going to be calling it KP from now on because I've heard every joke about that name and it annoys me. So at the KP Dune areas, we were actually flown from Boulder to Saratoga Springs. We were actually picked up by helos, and we went up to the site that should be shown there. It had not been constructed yet.
Really quick, Saratoga Springs, New York?
Yeah. No, Saratoga Springs, Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
It's just south of I-80.
Okay.
And it's straight across from Laramie. There's actually a very large airport there. Saratoga Springs has a couple private lodges and a large amount of our older government goes there to a resort, and there's a lot of conferences there. It's actually a strategic airport, which most people wouldn't know. There's also a wonderful spa there, so you got a whole bunch of rich politicians eating prime cattle hiding out on a private club near that airport. But we got into Saratoga, we got into Helos, and we went over to the site that Jeff is now showing. This didn't exist before. And if you look at the pulled out view, this place is called the Wind Scar. It's been scarred by the wind. The wind there has been blowing at 120 miles an hour intermittently for longer than we have been around. And it has literally ripped a large gash in the land. And that area, the source of a lot of this wind is coming from the area where that white structure is. So, but I'll go back. Our group got up there, and we were with other gamma groups, and there was military there. Our stuff was to go up to the edge of the pass near Kilpecker Dunes and KP Dunes there and just station. And we were to prevent egress of any biologicals that were non-human coming that way, be they squirrel, rabbit, deer, literally anything that wasn't us. And they were going to be bringing in equipment. There was a huge windstorm that kicked up about 3 hours when we got there. And we were actually, our group was supported by a 4-man team of Velcro patches, special force people. And our instructions were to intercept anything, kill it. And if our munitions or methods did not work, that the backup team had the ability to deal with it. So it started getting dark. There's a lot of helicopter movement too over that site, but we were to the west there at the top of the pass, and we were just watching everything go down. We got the night vision on, and if anybody's been in the military, you know what helicopter rotors look like in night vision. A whole bunch of flying saucers everywhere, because those rotors build up a static charge in the air, and they look like a giant glowing disc. So down the line, we actually got contact, and if you look at that section, you'll notice there's a road on either side of a central road going through the center brush. Do you see that, Jeff?
Yep.
Yeah, well, in that area was lined with enfilade, or flanking people on both sides. And the whole thing was, if they're going to break towards us. And eventually we had a lot of screams and yells about contact, and we heard a lot of stuff lighting up. And so we're at the end guard, and eventually we started getting stuff passing up to us. And it was, the best way I can describe them is, it looked like a coyote version of a Dogman. They're about 6 to 7 foot tall, really lanky and rangy, combination of bipedal and quadruped movement, and didn't really notice any eye glow, which didn't really care at the time, but they showed up just fine on night vision. And we probably had about 7 total break on the first wave that got through everything, and we lit them up, and they went down. I mean, not easy, but when you have sustained mass fire, things didn't really have much of a chance. And those things got torn apart pretty bad, and we had intermittent contact coming up that valley for pretty much most of the night. And then eventually the flankers moved in. There seemed to be no more of these things coming up towards us, and so we advanced down to clear. So I got to look at a lot of the bodies. Like I said, the shortest one I saw was about 4 feet, probably about 7 feet on the most, and they were digigrade. But they had developed glutes, so obviously they were capable of being bipedal for extended periods of time.
Right.
Their face was just like an oversized coyote's. I mean, a lot of them were torn up pretty bad.
Elongated snout, kind of?
Yeah, elongated snout, but they had kind of I don't know, dexterous and lithe look to them. I mean, still, I wouldn't want to screw with one, but I bet they were only about like the weight of our average guy over there, probably like 200, 300 tops. And I bet some were about lower than that. But they're fast. I mean, they were really fast. I believe that if we hadn't been in a situation of intercept and everything set up, it could have been really bad. But not really a fearful operation. Coat color was just like a coyote, had a tail, bleeding. definitely bleeding. Um, Blood color just kind of looked like standard human carbon dioxide loaded blood, like mostly exterior stuff. And I didn't really notice anything from like an arterial hit. So it seems kind of be universal color.
How many came out at you guys at that
Well,
time?
I don't end count. I don't know, but we probably actually took down over 50 in that area, just at the end of the line. But yeah, walking back, there's bodies everywhere. I mean, I really have no idea how many, but I mean, probably you could see one every 20 feet, every 20 square feet to 100 square feet.
And like you said, they were coming at you bipedally and quadruped, right?
Yeah, they were getting the heck shot out of them on either side, and they were herding them up that canyon towards the kill zone. In fact, so I think there still might be a large dead area up in that area. If you look, it should be all yellow dirt.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, that was the kill zone where we were established and looking down. So, I mean, it was a pretty classic op. And it's funny, I didn't know a lot of the gamma team I was working with. And we were all talking as we're going through there. And almost every single one of us had an encounter of one sort or another. You know, I had my Canada and rabbit ears pass encounter with them. These guys had their other encounters around the world or in the United States. So we advanced down, and you know, it was really weird. It smelled like blood. If you've ever been in a bad place and you get a lot of people or just a lot of things kind of get hit by guns, you know, blood has its own smell. A lot of that around there, so it really smelled like blood. And yeah, I mean, I kicked a couple here and there, even though we weren't supposed to, just to turn them over or look at them. And every so often, somebody would say, "Don't do that," and we're like, "Okay." And then really notice any abnormalities. I mean, like, these things literally looked like they should exist. They looked like just a walking anthropomorphic coyote kind of thing with the heel to the toe, which makes what people call the backward leg, was a lot shorter than a lot of digigrade stuff I've seen.
Okay.
So, you know, along a dog's, tarsal bones extends out from his heel that they call the reverse knee, but this was probably about like half scale of a dog. So I'd say there's more primary walking. But anyway, we got all the way back down the valley to where the construction site is, where the white site is, and they were taking out DEWs, and these are directed energy weapons on trailers. And I didn't know what they were, but one of the other guys said, "That's a maser," which is a microwave laser. These are big ones too, and they're just truck mounted. And so it looked like they had been masering the hole with these big truck mounted DEWs. And then we just stayed there for about 3 more days while they brought in construction equipment and got everything set up. And then after a 3-day period, we left, and there's no more skeleton events. We actually went out on a couple sweeps. And north of there in the Great Divide Basin, we found 3 different skeletons sticking out of the mud. You know, that baked mud stuff up there. And we marked them, and they were retrieved. The reservation near there has had over 719 people disappear in the past decade, so I am interested in why that is. A lot of elk bones up there. Oh my gosh. Everywhere I looked, elk bones. Whatever these things were, they must have been eating the elk for a long time.
Yeah, you had made a comment to me that there was desert elk, largest desert elk up there, and that's what they were snacking on.
Yeah, I have no idea about the swarming behavior, or if it was swarming or why. I don't know a lot of the particulars of the operation other than we did what we did. I mean, it wasn't just us up at the pass. I mean, that was a large established multi-tiered group operation at the pass as well as the sites to drive them into the kill zones. But so it's not like we were the only thing. I mean, it was pretty well established. There was a lot of coverage and a lot of helo work. I even saw a little bird there. I haven't seen one of those since overseas. And they were running the rotaries on the side, so they definitely could hear those things light up every so often.
Yeah, they are very cool little helicopters.
Yeah, but it's just started doing a lot of instant digging, a lot of stuff. There's a whole bunch of materials and trucks and everything. Obviously, they must have felt safe. And since they've put that whole area in there, the wind speed is almost negligible compared to what it was. I looked at the map recently and I noticed that that they're actually able to keep the roads stable across the dunes now and persistent, which was not possible. If you look down the wind scar, you'll see crossroads.
Yep.
Yeah, those didn't exist. I mean, the sand was always just getting blown down there to the very top of the red desert.
And that will be what Steph is saying. That will be the pulled out version picture that we're looking at. So you'll have the close-up view of the circular thing in the middle, and then I'll pull out, and what Steph is talking about with the sand, wind erosion, and it cut out. That'll be the picture that is. Ironically enough, you and I were talking. This is very close. Well, not very, very close, but pretty close to.
It's geologically connected.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
What is? I don't know if you know or if you can tell me or tell us, but what is that location that we are looking at? What is it?
Oh, the round thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a massive white painted giant concrete reinforced bunker with a large service pit next to it. That service pit is flooded with water and can flood that entire area really quick.
Okay.
If you look at it, you can see the pit, and it's kind of hard to tell, but that's actually the reason that you can't see the light down in there is due to water refraction. When that empties out, there's a large transport set of ramps going down. You should probably be able to see them.
Yeah, you can see it. It's like a kind of like a 3-tiered ladder, it looks like.
Yeah, and those are large ramps going down. And if you look at the scale on the map that you're at, and then compare that scale across the container, what do you see?
I measured the container actually. I got
the big round one.
Yeah, I got 50 feet across by 112 feet at the longest part. You know what I mean? It's not really a circle. It's a kind of an oval. It's a large area. Right.
And it's obviously not a nuke cap for anybody who says that, because nuke caps don't look like that. And you notice the giant freight Connex loading ramp on the south side of the rectangular
that little
part?
Small side, yes.
Yeah. And then there should be one or two structures around it.
Yep. Little kind of off to the side, though.
Yeah, they're just monitor structures. What's very interesting about that point is it's full of niobium, which is a very sought after part of the Earth family. And niobium is really important because 200 grams of niobium added to a steel frame of a car gives it so much strength that you can reduce the weight of the steel in that car by 250 kilograms. So by adding 200 grams of niobium, you can actually get rid of the weight of one whole passenger.
Wow.
So, and if you look carefully, do you notice the brown weeds with brownish red everywhere?
Yes. Yep.
That's actually iron ore leaching out of the ground. And there's a place called Iron Springs. It's not the Iron Springs, Wyoming. It's just called Iron Springs there. And that water comes up and it gets into the plants till they're dead. And then you're actually left with ferric metallic sagebrush. So that brown weeds you see are actually dead and they're just rusting. They're so full of iron. But they all are also mildly radioactive due to the presence of the niobium. So that area is now a strategic reserve, and that building is listed as a strategic reserving cap, but it doesn't look like any of the other strategic reserving caps. So it's really funny that it's so close to that area, so close to I-80 and all the different areas, and right near a major recreation area, but just a little bit of geology and inhospitable terrain makes that giant artifact you can see from space just hidden from everybody.
Invisible when you're on the ground. You're not going to be able to find that because, I'm looking at it. I keep blowing up and, scrolling out and scrolling in at it. And I mean, if you're just randomly out there, you're not gonna really find that easily.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have the same group of people who might politely ask people to avoid that, or somebody might come out and say, hey, get out, private, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there's not a lot of issues. And not a lot of people like to go in that area because the Great Basin, the dry Great Basin, horrible place is just north of that. We talked about that place.
Yeah.
That's just deadly.
Yeah, for those people who don't know, can you kind of share a little bit about that, what you and I talked about?
Yeah, everybody's familiar with the Salt Lake, but that's because it's near a town and it's still got water. But the Great Divide Basin, just above our Grand Basin, I forget the exact name for basin with no drainage. In fact, the Continental Divide hits the top of it and then goes around either side. That one basin makes the Continental Divide kind of vague. So it's nothing but evaporite and salt deposits, and the wind blew so hard there that it blew all the earth off down to the water table, so it couldn't blow it off anymore. And it just gets this cracked mud surface, but the underside is this goopy, sticky, black suspension of dirt, of mud. And if you step on it, it's full of salt and bacteria. And if you crack the surface in the wrong area, you can get overcome by the sheer amount of methane and different gases that come out of there. And another interesting thing is when the wind is not blowing in that basin, there are no plants. And there's so much salt that the salt can get hot when there's no wind. And when you heat up sodium chlorides, you get chlorine gas. And so you can get pockets of chlorine gas. People have driven in there with the vehicles and had the vehicle stall because there's no more air to run the vehicle. And then they die. And then the wind comes along and clears out the area. Somebody else finds them. So the basin there probably has a ton of bodies. Since it's right next to the reservation, you got all the missing folks too. You stick a body in there, you're probably never going to find it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. I had never, I've heard of it obviously, but I didn't know the certain, like with the chlorine gas and stuff like that it's pretty interesting. I keep scrolling in and out and just finding different...
I know, it's a fascinating bit of territory.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know if you're familiar with Skinwalker Ranch very much. Not
as much as I think the average person would be. I'm more familiar with the geology underneath of it.
Right.
And so
there was a experience that one of the owners had when they moved in, and there was a large dog, canine, that
I heard about that.
Grabbed a calf, and tried to pull it through the fence. I'm wondering if what was seen that day was any relation to what you guys encountered out there, being that it's not that far,
It really isn't that far. Technically, if you look at the geology, there's no rare earth in that area or anything weird, but actually there is, because there's a huge phosphate bed under Skinwalker Ranch and in the surrounding area. And phosphate is in the top 7 rarest elements in our solar system. A lot of people might find that odd, but without phosphate, we have no life on Earth, because phosphate is actually the prime atom that is needed for mitochondria. But all phosphates have rare earth. In fact, when they're making phosphate, they often have to leach rare earth out of it. So, and I've been sending some stuff to you over time, and I guess we can tell other people about this random occurrence of these rare earth deposits. In particular, are rare earth potentialities or structures and systems around some of these hotspots. Yep. I was surprised to find that Half Dome itself actually has a huge extension of allanite, which is a granitic holder of rare earths. So it's getting interesting because there's a lot of electrical potential, you got a lot of radioactive potential, and you just got all these other different novelties. And we use, like with the Hadron Collider, CERN and all that stuff, there's a lot of rare earth that's used in those. And the only reason we made the Hadron Collider is because that reaction happens everywhere all over the Earth about 10,000 times a day. It's just that we never know where it happens. So and we have to get the sensors there. That's why we made that whole collider. But that process happens all over the Earth about 10,000 times a day due to intersection of what we call cosmic rays causing bosonic matter to turn into fermionic matter, basically saying turning energy into matter, which is one of the things I heard somebody talking about Skinwalker as a near-peer project that the military really wanted to understand it, so our near-peers didn't understand it first. Because once again, if we figure out how to convert energy into matter in a manner that is not prohibitively expensive energy-wise, that'd be amazing. But another interesting thing about the phosphates is that they can develop caverns similar to limestone. So I wonder if some of these larger phosphate beds, which occupy the northeast corner there where Skinwalker Ranch is, extending up to Evanston and Wamsutter and into the Great Divide Basin, might have some deep leach holes or deep leach tunnels. So just an idea to posit.
Yeah. There's a lot that's not known about that place, and a lot that is speculated. And I think, like, you and I, you keep sending me information about rare earth and certain things, and I'm starting to see a correlation between the two, like you said. And I'm wondering if these cryptids or whatever are attracted to this rare earth area for some reason. Like,
I wonder if it generates them.
Yeah, like the radiation. You know what I mean? Like if it gives them energy. Not to sound stupid, but like almost like, I mean, we have no idea what these things are. It's just a theory right now until we can get one on a table, like public table, and do a dissection. But like, if they're drawn to these certain areas in these super rare earth minerals have like certain properties that can cause damage to human beings, to their cells and stuff like that. I wonder if these things have like almost an opposite. You know what I mean? Like like you said, generates them. I wonder if it kind of pumps them up, or if they're attracted to it for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people talk about the cryptids appearing and disappearing, which, I mean, a fancy way of saying it is that bosons are basically carrier matter. We don't see them, but, you know, electromagnetic forces, gravitational forces, and the idea of the whole super collider was to put a huge amount of energy into a targeted zone that had a boson system in it, and then the collision for a very short period of time would cause a fermion to appear, and then they decay away really quickly. And that's a fancy way of saying we take energy that can co-locate on itself and turn it into matter, which cannot co-locate on itself. And so, but that takes a large process and stuff, in detection and all this different things. But if you have a lot of rare earth deposits, and we have all the cosmic ray intersection, which actually has been detected and shown, and they found the decay particles showing that we do get boson to fermion transmission or transition in the atmosphere alone. One interesting side effect is the heat from the earth is partially radioactive decay, but there's some wonderful papers on it about the possibility of it having an ongoing light fusion reactor system of the earth itself generating the heat in the upper lithosphere, and the heat transfers up and down. And so if we have a giant fusion reaction that's powering our magnetosphere, mix it in with random electrical systems, random point manifestations, we could be having all sorts of boson to fermion transition that actually stays much more permanent. Ergo, we get mysterious stuff that appears out of nowhere. Right. So I know that's really weird, but I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. It gives, you know, it's a theory, and it's a very practical theory if you think about it, like the way you explained it. With everything, with the, it's almost like I hate saying not invisibility, but like a portal.
Oh yeah,
kind of like just a quick in and out. They know where to go because maybe they can sense these areas. Now, when you said, I caught this, you said something about phosphate. I think it was the phosphate and the limestone.
Mm-hmm.
Limestone is known when there's large amounts of limestone. For some reason, there's a lot of paranormal in areas where limestone is present. I know I was just watching it was a ghost hunt, and this plantation or whatever was built over an Indian Native American burial ground. There was like 500 supposed bodies in this ground, and they had specifically mentioned limestone, and they had said, when there's a large deposit of limestone for some reason, that acts like a generator for the paranormal. Have you ever heard that?
Yes, I actually have, from many different positions, from hyper realistic to sheer conjecture. But one of my friends brought up an interesting metaphorical aspect of limestone, and that limestone is actually built of the skeletons of countless amounts, like septillions, octillions, nonillions of little creatures. I mean, it's all organically formed.
Yeah.
And so you have basically, I mean, if you want to get that far out like he was, it's life force rock that's actually trapped in a static state and then can act as a collector and grabber. But another interesting thing about limestone is that it makes tunnels very easily in caves because you get water in there, carbonic acid, haul it out. So less conjecture, there's a substantial amount of cave systems wherever you find limestone, and it's much more prevalent than people realize, and sporadic. So a rock that generated a whole bunch of deep caves, and they can go all the way down to like Kola levels, 9 miles before you start burning up. And yeah, so I mean, like, if there's limestone, there's going to be caves, and if there's caves, then you have an unobserved potential. And we still are learning new stuff every time we discover a cave. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that is related from we've covering the metaphorical to strange. I mean, when it comes to portals, there's 2 types that I know of, and one's called a shimmer, which a lot of people have seen, the shimmery heat distortion thing where people get screwed up when they walk through. But the other one, nobody really has put together outside of whatever this op was. One of the reasons they shut that down is because if you have a rift to a different place or a portal, it's a conceit to think that it has the same atmospheric pressure as ours. So if you open up a hole to a different atmospheric well or a different existence that actually has a higher or lower pressure atmosphere, you're going to have a lot of wind. That's how that wind scar formed, was just constant expulsion from a rifted area. And it was intermittent, but you can see how much it did to the land.
Yeah.
And you can see that it's now stopped. So you have 2 major indicators that it was a persistent multi-millennium item, and now you see that the multi-millennium item no longer has those artifacts. So it's very interesting, too, because I've heard, and I didn't experience it when we were looking for Josh, but I've heard a lot of places get bad weather when they're looking for a person. So I'm wondering if the dimensional portal thing is super common on a small scale. What would a small scale rift portal do if something had come in and out of it and grabbed somebody? You'd actually have a huge differential of pressure, and just hours of a small 6-7 foot hole being opened with a major pressure differential could instantly, within a half an hour to an hour, turn an entire area into a different weather system.
I never really thought about it like that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, and sure, a lot of people are like, portals are bullshit. And I'm just like, sorry for swearing, but I mean, like, sure, until you've seen stuff, it's BS to you. I don't care. But I'm a firm believer that portals exist. I think the majority of the people that listen to the channel are, because there's been
too many people talking about the shimmer rather than the rift, like what you had said. Just so I'm aware, or just to clarify it.
Yeah.
What I got from what you had just stated about the rift being open up here and creating the wind scars, are you kind of stating that what that area that we're looking at stopped that portal or that rift?
Yeah, that operation stopped that. I mean, Wyoming's still a windy place, but that area no longer has the constant intermittent systems that are just like ripped through that one very isolated, limited area. A lot of people say it's mountain geology, but if you look at it, mountain geology is always going to have a fan shape to it. You're going to, just due to Reynolds coefficient of drag, or the atmosphere slows down, so it fans out. And the wind scar is novel in itself due to the fact that it is actually following a Coriolis line of the Earth. You notice how it bends. So it's actually following a Coriolis effect of the Earth, but it actually stays in a very limited boundary with a clear delineation. You can go in as deep as you want on magnification, and you'll see that there has been centuries, if not millennia, of established boundary of this wind corridor that actually changes within a 1 foot sort of a area.
Yeah. I'm looking at the geography of this area, and there's with the wind scar that we're looking at in Wyoming, there's also ironically enough, and I know that this upload is not about Skinwalker Ranch, but it's interesting because it's about 150 to 200 miles away to the south of where we are right now. And there's another wind scar that you can, if you look at the map, it looks like there's another wind scar just south of the area above, just right above where Skinwalker Ranch would be.
Well, you just spoiled an episode.
Well, now there's a hint for everybody. But if you look, if people look at this map, you can literally see it. I didn't know, and like you and I said at the beginning, I don't know what we are going to talk about. I have not. We made that pact right at the beginning of our relationship. I don't want to know anything until you guys know it. And I didn't know this. I knew possibly that we were going to be talking about that soon. But, just while you're talking, I'm listening and I'm looking at this map, and I'm noticing geographic similarities to this area, which makes a lot of sense because activity up here that was stopped has now increased down there. Pretty soon, maybe they'll be doing the same thing in that area, but we'll save that for another upload.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you look at the southern wind scar, you can see it's still active.
Yeah. It looks like it's larger than the northern one.
Yes. Yeah, that one's actually grown quite substantially.
Which is right on the Uinta and the reservation right there. It's like right above.
Oh yeah.
It's insane. Huh. Wow.
Yeah. And and what's really funny is minor earthquakes actually compress the massive quartz deposits, on all the granite down there. So even minor earthquakes are compressing quartz. It oscillates. Hence we have a watch. But if you crush quartz, you actually produce a ton of energy. So an earthquake lights are usually just a arcing system or a projection system of plasma energy coming out of the ground. But if you add a huge amount of electricity and there's plenty of earthquakes in Utah, just south of that area, and constantly pulsing that area. So the reaction of, you got quartz doing massive piezo effects. Some people are going to say piezo, whatever, I don't care. Mixed with rare earth and other phenomena that we have no idea how it works, or other people might and I don't. And you mix all that stuff together, then you actually have a rift, not just a shimmer, And the major difference between a rift and a shimmer has been theorized that a rift is an open point to another place that is not here, whereas a shimmer is a point to point on Earth.
Yeah.
Or at least something that has a similar non-pressure system. But these large pressure systems, it's always been kind of weird to me that they are blatantly obvious and very easy to spot, yet completely overlooked. Because who's going to look at that section of the map ever and see any of that without any context?
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't, I mean, the only reason why I was is because you were giving me the context to look at it. The rift portal is, and that makes a lot of sense, because in one of my favorite kind of experiences or whatever around the ranch or this area was where a hunter was sitting up on a ridge and he saw this kind of thing open up, and he saw a creature that literally didn't belong. The only thing I can think of is something like what you guys saw and blew apart up in Canada, something similar to that, drop out of this portal.
Gosh.
And this guy's, hunting. He's just sitting on a ridge, kind of taking a break, sees this portal open, this creature jump out of it and run the opposite way up another ridge. And that guy just said, "I'm done hunting today," and left.
I would be too.
Yeah. But it's very interesting because the Native Americans in all that area have always said it's a magical place with lights coming out of the ground and this and that. And how you just explained everything really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I imagine there's plenty of micro rifts that occur, but the fact that we have evidence and know how to deal with apparently large static permanent rifts is obviously this has been dealt with for a long time. And like I said, the mazer is conjecture from one of my friends. I trust him. He's got an EE degree and a postdoc on it, and he did a lot of crazy stuff as a specialist contractor. So, I mean, he knows what he's looking at. And, my own research, that's a giant towed mazer, not a satellite mazer. And although people call them DEWs now, like directed energy weapons, but we got much better ones than those now. But, I mean, that's just a ground unit for close proximity. And obviously they know what they're doing. I just find it odd that these giant obvious things are with permanent evidence and still in action are actually, well, at least the ones south, are overlooked. I mean, you can see it from orbit. What the hell?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it I think I don't know, 100 miles off the face of the earth looking at these things, and they're very evident from where I'm looking. So
but nobody ever goes there. It's like the old joke, it's kind of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You'll never find it has somebody else's problem field on it because nobody sees somebody else's problem.
Right. Wow, this is really amazing, really cool.
Yeah.
A really interesting, upload. I'm blown away. I mean, what you just shared with us was a attack of coyote-like dogmen with the government controlling the weather and closing a portal.
Well, the government wasn't controlling the weather. The weather was being induced by the rift.
Yeah. So, yeah. But technically, they controlled it by closing it down.
Oh, they did shut it down. Okay. Yeah, sorry. I just didn't understand there.
But this is this is amazing. I mean, in such a small area, 120 feet by 50 feet circle can do that. It's really cool. I don't have a better word for it. It's just.
Well, one thing to add is that was the core rift. Apparently, around the core rift, a whole bunch of micro rifts developed that can be pretty well sustained, that are much larger than what a theoretical cryptid or pull-off could produce or whatever event. So that whole area all the way up to the pass where we're at is prone to, at that time period, these micro rifts, which apparently I found out later were spreading in a radian from the area very slowly, not like a bad thing. But, I mean, that area did have a well-sustaining food supply. You would never know it in that type of desert, but that area is really rich in biota and food.
Yeah, yeah. Especially like when you and I were just talking privately prior to that in the Steamboat Mountain region with the desert elk.
Yeah, well, it's a large population of elk that has become desert elk. And I mean, that area into the Red Desert is the largest unfenced section of land in the United States.
Okay.
So it's just a lot of people go four-wheeling, but they stay in the KP Dune side. And the ones that go over usually get their vehicle destroyed, or, you know, there's not much to see there and there's a lot of danger. There's no reason to go over that pass there at KP on the west side.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially with the chlorine gas area. And
yeah, that's one of the only places I've heard of that effect actually being lethal. I mean, you think Death Valley would have the same thing, but it doesn't have the same density of halite or salt deposits. And so it's kind of a unique phenomena to that area. And I've talked to other geologists who are way above me in knowledge and stuff like that. And they're like, that's not true. We've never heard of that. And eventually they get back to me and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, right? So, I think that's enough for me tonight, and thank you for everybody listening. Even if you like me or not, you're still helping the channel. Comment away. I'd always love to hear from you. And at this time, Jeff, can I give them my contact?
yeah, yep.
Cool. I think Jeff's going to put it in the description, but if you have any questions that you would like to direct to me, this does not take away from Jeff's channel. That is not my intent. This is his channel. I'm not starting one. And that email is imakeitleave@rescueteam.com. It's all one word, no uppercase. And once again, it's imakeitleave@rescueteam.com. I'll get back to you as I can. All right, guys.
That'll be in the description. That'll be in the description below.
Yep.
So that will be Steph's email to you guys. If you guys have questions, direct it over there. Or you can direct it to me and I will share the information back. I've got an email for you that I will give to you later after we're done with the show. And yeah, it was awesome having you back. I really appreciate the information that you shared with us tonight. It was some fascinating stuff, and I mean, truly mind-blowing, you know. Not just shoot 'em up cryptids, but we talked about some really intense, fascinating stuff that has possible explanations for why these things do what they do. So thank you.
Well, that was a little short on the creature, but to everybody out there, I mean, there's other interesting stuff. You want Dogman attacks, everybody's at them.
Yeah.
So, so I hope this does help some people, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for your support and wishes for my health, and I feel better every day. So thank you much to anybody.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, catch you later.
All right, folks, just a lot of very fascinating information that really, if you think about it, will send you into a spiral and have you looking into a lot of this information, going down rabbit holes that once you go down, you will never be the same, to be honest with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. Your support is what helps the channel continue to grow and go, and what gives people a chance to share their experiences, theories, and ideas, judgment-free, simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.